In a world obsessed with instant gratification, dopamine hits, and endless scrolling, true power has become invisible. Men are told to chase, to please, to perform, to seek validation from a world that thrives on their distraction. But beneath the noise of modern life, there's a quiet revolution rising. It's not about aggression or control, it's about energy, it's about presence. It's the silent dominance that comes when a man masters himself, and semen retention is its foundation. Arav was like any modern young man, ambitious, energetic, but scattered. His days were a blur of notifications, dating apps, and mindless habits. He felt powerful in moments, but hollow inside. Relationships came and went, each one leaving him more confused about what real attraction meant. He couldn't understand why. Despite doing everything right, something in his energy felt off, drained, unstable, unfocused. One night, after another meaningless encounter and another wave of regret, he stumbled upon the concept of semen retention. At first, it sounded like some ancient superstition, something spiritual wrapped in mystery, but curiosity led him deeper. The more he read, the more it made sense, biologically, psychologically, energetically. Ancient Indian texts spoke of ojas, the subtle essence of life energy, believed to be strengthened through retention and discipline. Modern science, too, hinted at increased testosterone, confidence, and mental clarity when men practiced control over their impulses. RF decided to test it, not for religion, not for status, but for himself. The first week was hard. His mind was restless, his body craved release. But something unexpected happened. His focus sharpened. The fog began to lift. By the second week, his sleep improved, his workouts hit deeper, and his posture changed. He stood taller, not out of ego, but out of inner stability. When he walked into rooms, people noticed, not because of his looks, but because of his energy. By the end of the first month, he met Anaya. She wasn't just another girl from an app. She was observant, self-assured, and grounded, the kind of woman who usually made him overthink. But this time, something was different. He didn't chase. He didn't try to impress. He just was. He listened more, spoke less. His calmness made her lean in. His stillness drew her curiosity. She couldn't explain it, but she felt something magnetic. That's the paradox of modern attraction. Women are indeed drawn to the loudest man in the room. They are redrawn to the one whose silence feels powerful. The man whose energy commands attention without demanding it. Over the next few months, Arav realized that retention wasn't just about holding back physically, it was about redirecting. The same energy that once went outward was now fueling his goals, creativity, and vision. He became more selective, not just with women, but with friends, food, and even thoughts. He understood that his energy was sacred capital. Anaya felt this shift deeply. Their conversations went beyond surface-level topics. They explored purpose, self-control, and depth. She told him one evening, "You don't look at me like other men do. It's like you see through me." Arav smiled quietly. What she felt wasn't magic. It was the presence of a man in control of his essence. Semen retention, he learned, wasn't suppression, it was transmutation. It turned sexual energy, the rawest force of creation, into confidence, creativity, and clarity. In an era where most men are slaves to impulses, a man who can master his desires becomes magnetic. He stops chasing because he doesn't need to. His energy attracts naturally. Months passed, Arav's business started growing, his relationships deepened, and his mind became sharper. But more than that, his aura changed. People sensed it before they spoke to him. He didn't dominate through words or aggression, he dominated through presence. That's the silent dominance, the energy that doesn't scream but commands. In modern relationships, where emotional overstimulation and fleeting attraction are the norms, this kind of grounded energy is rare. Women are surrounded by attention, but starved for presence. They meet men who offer compliments, gifts, or validation, but few who offer energy. A retained man offers something different: security without control, desire without desperation. Arav wasn't trying to be alpha or enlightened. He simply discovered that mastery of self is the foundation of masculine power. When a man stops leaking his essence in distractions and lust, he begins radiating it in purpose and creation. His words carry weight, his silence commands respect. One night, while walking under the city lights, Anaya said, "You don't have to say much. I can feel you." He smiled, not out of pride, but gratitude. He had found what modern men had forgotten, that real dominance isn't about controlling others, it's about mastering your energy. And that's the silent revolution happening today. Men rediscovering their inner fire, their discipline, and their spiritual potency. In a world where everything pulls your attention outward, retention pulls it inward, where true transformation begins. The modern world rewards noise, but power comes from silence. And in that silence lies dominance, not the kind that conquers others, but the kind that conquers self. RFS story, ISNT unique. It is a mirror for every man ready to step back from chaos and reclaim his essence. Because in mastering yourself, you don't lose pleasure, you gain power. Semen retention. The silent dominance harnessing your power in modern relationships in the modern era of overstimulation, instant gratification, and emotional burnout. The concept of power has been redefined. The world celebrates speed, display, and external validation, but silently, a deeper truth is re-emerging that real strength is not in noise but in control, not in dominance over others but mastery over oneself. Semen retention, in its symbolic essence, represents this inner dominion. It is not a rigid rule or ascetic command. Rather, it is a living discipline that trains a man to redirect his raw life force, his focus, vitality, and creative current into conscious purpose. In a culture that drains attention through endless distractions, the man who can contain and channel his energy becomes rare. He no longer seeks validation in the temporary pleasures of indulgence or the fleeting rush of digital recognition. His power is quiet but undeniable, felt in his presence more than his words. This silent dominance is not about controlling women or others. It is about commanding oneself in a world designed to fragment the mind and weaken the will. When a man begins to master this art, he becomes a stabilizing force in his relationships, a center of calm amidst emotional storms, and a source of respect that needs no demand. To understand this modern alchemy, we must first realize that energy, in any form, follows attention. Where attention goes, energy flows, a timeless truth that yogic and psychological traditions both recognize. The essence of semen retention is not physical hoarding. It is awareness of how energy moves. When a man continually dissipates his vital force, whether through overindulgence in pleasure, constant entertainment, or scattered desire, he weakens the very core of his being. His energy remains surface level, never crystallizing into strength, clarity, or charisma. Modern relationships, built often on shallow attractions and emotional volatility, suffer from this diffusion. A man disconnected from his inner source cannot anchor a relationship. He becomes reactive, needy, and anxious. By contrast, the man who practices self-restraint cultivates a magnetic stillness. His attention is gathered, his emotions integrated, and his presence becomes nourishing. In the modern dating landscape, such a man stands out not because he is loud, but because he is centered. Women, consciously or not, sense this difference, not as aggression or dominance, but as maturity and emotional gravity. His silence speaks of depth, his gaze of awareness, and his choices of purpose. In the context of relationships, semen retention translates into a new kind of strength, not abstinence, but integrity. It redefines masculinity from performance to presence. The modern man has been taught to prove his worth through display, financial success, physical appearance, or social validation. Yet the deepest feminine yearning in relationships has never been for perfection, but for greatness. She seeks not a man who conquers the world outwardly, but one who holds the world within calmly. The ancient yogic wisdom of brahmacharya described this quality as living in awareness of the sacred power within. The man who honors his energy naturally radiates respect and self-mastery. In modern language, this translates to emotional intelligence, the ability to remain steady under pressure, to act rather than react, and to listen with depth rather than haste. When such a man enters a relationship, he does not compete for control. He creates safety through presence. His partner feels not subdued but liberated, free to express, knowing she is met by strength that neither dominates nor submits. In this way, semen retention becomes not a doctrine but a psychological training ground for love, learning how to hold one's own energy without fear or escape. At a subtler level, this practice awakens creativity and purpose. Modern life has divorced sensuality from spirituality, seeing desire as either indulgence or suppression. But true mastery lies in transmutation, the art of converting one form of energy into another. When the raw drive of lust is sublimated into creativity, it fuels innovation, art, and leadership. The great inventors, mystics, and visionaries across cultures understood this process intuitively. When energy is contained, it refines. When dispersed, it weakens. The modern man who learns to manage his impulses becomes a creator rather than a consumer. He begins to channel his vitality into projects, businesses, and growth. This shift is visible in his posture, his tone, his eyes. Retained energy gives rise to subtle confidence, not the loud egoic kind, but an assurance that needs no proof. In relationships, this manifests as direction. He does not chase validation because his energy already moves toward purpose. His partner senses this current and naturally aligns. She feels inspired, not dominated, supported, not possessed. Together, they evolve, her emotion fueling his clarity, his groundedness providing her safety. Thus, what begins as self-control becomes the foundation for conscious partnership in a distracted age. Yet the path is not without challenge. The modern man lives in an era where every stimulus is designed to trigger desire. Algorithms exploit attention, industries profit from distraction, and pleasure is marketed as freedom. Against such a backdrop, practicing semen retention becomes an act of rebellion, a reclaiming of sovereignty over one's own body and mind. It requires understanding that the energy within is sacred, not shameful, potent, not primitive. This doesn't mean suppressing desire, it means integrating it consciously. When impulses arise, the man observes them without judgment, breathes through them, and channels that same power into awareness. Over time, this creates what the ancients called ojas, a refined vitality that nourishes the brain, steadies the nerves, and magnetizes the aura. In practical modern terms, it translates to heightened focus, emotional regulation, and an unshakable self-image. He becomes immune to manipulation because his happiness no longer depends on indulgence. He experiences a deeper kind of pleasure, the pleasure of mastery. And when he engages in intimacy, it is no longer a release of emptiness but a sharing of fullness. This transformation redefines both masculinity and love. No longer a struggle for power, but a dance of awareness. Ultimately, semen retention as a modern discipline is a metaphor for the larger human struggle, the art of transforming chaos into order, instinct into intelligence, and desire into direction. It is not about moral superiority, but about reclaiming the power that modern culture trades for convenience. In relationships, this inner mastery becomes the silent foundation of trust and attraction. A man who has conquered himself emanates peace. He doesn't need to prove worth or demand respect. His partner feels it, society feels it, and even his silence carries weight. In a time when many chase surface validation, such presence feels revolutionary. This is the essence of silent dominance, not the dominance of ego, but the sovereignty of spirit. The modern man who embraces this truth does not reject the world, he transcends it. He moves through life as both participant and witness, fully alive yet unattached. His energy no longer leaks through distraction or fear. It flows with purpose, anchored in the root of being. Through restraint, he finds release. Through silence, power. Through presence, love. And in that quiet mastery lies the timeless secret of masculine strength, not loud, not forceful, but eternal. Before we conclude, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and do not forget to drop your location in the comments. I'd love to know where you are watching from. And if you ever have any questions, join our Telegram channel where we interact directly and help each other grow. The link is in the description. PL, share this video to your dear one.